では、ジェフ・パットンさん、12年ぶりぐらいの、初回からの2回目のキーノートということになります。なんとか日本にはいらっしゃってますが、長年の私の、古い友人というかずっとアジャイルカンファレンスで毎回お会いして毎回満席のセッションをアジャイルカンファレンスでやられているジェフ・パットンさん、日本に来ていただいて、で皆さんに、非常に多くの皆さんに、見ていただけると私も大変喜ばしく思っております。ではジェフ・パットンさん、よろしくお願いします。じゃあ Let's start the keynote speech from Jeff Patton. Thank you.
All right, I'll see if I can make sure the microphone catches me. I move around a lot. I am Jeff Patton. I will try and speak slowly enough that translators can keep up. And that play was a perfect introduction to what I need to talk about. I need a picture of the bird that will kill you if you don't focus on value, because that's important. I want to talk about value. You are all here because you probably help build software, help build products. But do you know how valuable they are? For the last feature you released or put into your product, do you know how valuable it is? And how would you know? We keep talking about value, but I want you to be very clear on where value comes from. That's the obligatory slide about me. I am here because I'm very old. I've been building software, well, since the 1980s, but it was my job starting in 1993. But I've been focusing on building software from a product perspective. I started with the process extreme programming in the year 2000. In 2001, the term Agile was coined, and I found out I was using an Agile process. And my job title in 2000 and 2001 was product manager. So I come into Agile development thinking about it from a product perspective. And of course, you all know that I'm responsible for that story mapping thing. It's the only book I've written. And it took me so long to write, and I need to write more books, but that's going to take a while. Oh, this would be, yeah, this would be better. I don't know why I didn't see that earlier. Is that better? Now I won't have to lean over, and we can move that out. All right. Scrum uses the term product owner to describe this emphasis on product, but I find that most organizations don't really understand what we mean by that. All modern companies use digital technology to drive their business success. You're here because they do, but not all product companies leverage product thinking to really get the benefit out of it. Now, I'll mention a couple companies that I've had the pleasure of working with. In the United States, there is a large department store chain called Target. Target, their sales in 2023 was over 107 billion US dollars. They have thousands of stores, and they are an example of a company that has adopted product thinking in the way that they build their digital technology. Another large US retailer is a company called CarMax. They sell cars. They're the world's largest used car dealership. Their sales, well, from when I started working with them, their sales were around $10 billion a year. And as of last year, their sales are well over $25 billion annually. And of course, there's a lot of factors that lead to their growth, but they cite adopting product thinking to one of the important things. Now, what product thinking does is compel everyone to move their focus to value, and that's why this is important. So one thing I want you to notice is what these companies have in common. What they have in common is they are not software companies. They do not produce and sell software. They sell cars, they sell groceries, they sell lots of other things, but their products are, their primary product is that retail experience. So I need to focus on three things. I'd like to finish in an hour and leave time for a lot of questions, but I want to explain where value really comes from. Anyone who's ever taken a class from me or seen me deliver a talk will have seen me draw this model over and over, and I won't stop drawing it until it is common understanding. So I'll start with that. Now, I want to help you identify what your products are. Because if you're a company like Target or CarMax, your digital products are something very different. You can't be a product owner, you can't own product value unless you understand what your products are. So we want to talk about that. And then I really want to get serious about explaining exactly how you measure value. No one should leave here thinking that value is subjective, or it's a guess, or something that stakeholders tell you is valuable. You should be able to say specifically how your product is valuable. So let's start by talking about where value comes from. And I want to start with a couple examples of very very successful companies. And I'll give you an example of a very successful company that forgot where value comes from. This is Jeff Bezos. He is holding above his head something called an Amazon Fire Phone. Has anyone heard of the Fire Phone before? A few people. In 2014, Amazon launched the Fire Phone as a competitor to Android-based phones and to iPhones, and it had its own ecosystem and some really interesting features in it, and he announced it after many years of R&D. He's announcing it Steve Jobs style. The only problem with this phone is no one liked it. Reviewers hated it. Customers hated it. No one bought it. It sold originally for $200 US. Soon after releasing it, they marked it down to 99 cents US. You could buy it for $1 if so long as you bought some mobile phone time. And then by the end of the year, they took it off the market. In 2014, they wrote off $170 million worth of unsold phones. Now, the tragedy here isn't that this was an unsuccessful product. The big tragedy here is that the people building the product knew it. There are many articles written to describe, to talk about what went wrong. I'm going to give you a quote from an article from Fast Company magazine. "We poured surreal amounts of money into it, yet we all thought it had no value to the customer," which was the biggest irony. Whenever anyone asked why we're doing this, the answer was, because Jeff wants it. Not me, that other Jeff. No one thought the feature justified the cost of the project. No one, absolutely no one. Now, this is what happens when teams mistake stakeholder satisfaction for value. This is what happens when teams think that their customer is Jeff Bezos. But Jeff Bezos isn't happy when he gets what he wants. Jeff Bezos is happy when you get what you want. Jeff Bezos does not have enough thumbs to use $170 million worth of Fire Phones. The customer to focus on was you, not Jeff Bezos. That's the tragedy here. And the tragedy is the teams working on this that shipped this product on time and probably at very high quality weren't focusing on value. Now, here's an alternative. This person is Daniel Ek. He's the CEO of Spotify. I'm very lucky. I met this person a long time ago, and I worked for Spotify. I taught the very first product ownership in Spotify when it was a very small Stockholm company, less than 200 people. I was asked to come over to Spotify, and I didn't know who they were. I thought, why are they so important? Why is this an interesting company? But I was able to talk to them very early on and able to get a feel for the company, and I know that they're focused on value. I didn't give this person enough reverence when I first met him, but now he's gone on to build a hugely successful company. If you use Spotify, you're aware of a feature in Spotify called Discovery Weekly. Now, when I first worked with Spotify, there was no easy way to discover and find new, interesting music, but Discovery Weekly was a wildly successful feature that helped you find new music. Now, when asked specifically about that feature, this is a quote from also Fast Company magazine, same magazine, different article, Daniel said, "I would have killed that if it was just me, 100%. I never really saw the beauty of it. I questioned them, the team building it, 2 or 3 times. Why are you sure you really want to do this? Why are you spending all this time and energy? There are lots of things in this company I didn't think were good ideas that turned into some of our best things." Now, this is what leadership behaves like when they understand what value is and when they understand that the value isn't doing what they want. This is what leadership behaves like when they hold teams responsible for value, and this is what teams behave like when they know they're responsible for value. So let's talk about this value word a bit more. Now I need to ask you to think about what makes a product valuable to you. This is normally where I ask people to shout things out, but I don't know how many people speak English here. Can you think of a product that you love? What makes a product valuable to you? I can guess. Did I hear somebody yelling? All right, let me fill in a few things. I've asked this question many times. When I ask people what makes a product valuable to them, they will say things like it is easy to use, or it solves a problem. Even things like it's fun to use, or it saves me time, or I use it every day. Even things like it's delightful. It solves a problem I didn't even know I had. Now, look, the next question I'll ask is, if this is what's valuable to you as someone who uses a product, think about your company. If your company makes products, what makes a product valuable to your organization? If your organization makes a bunch of products, when I ask people this, the first thing I hear is that it makes money. Or if we build that product for internal use, they will say things like it saves money. And all that leads to return on investment. They'll say things like it's easy to sell, or customers love it. Jim talked about lovability with products yesterday as being really important. Those are the things that make things valuable to your organization. Now, the one thing no one says is finished on time, or finished under budget, or stakeholders love it, because that's not where value comes from. When everyone here in this room and in the room next door and people watching online, I assume it is your job to take ideas and turn them into products, into things that people can use. Now, those ideas could be for whole new products, but you are probably here because you built software as a product. Software is a very different kind of product. It is not like a car or a camera or a computer. If your car may be a product, but if we'll have someone here from Honda speaking tomorrow, someone very important who has been involved with this way of thinking for a very long time. But if you have a Honda car or motorcycle, if the company is hard at work developing a better car or motorcycle, you will have to get rid of your old one and replace it with a new one. Traditional products improve themselves using an obsolescence model. They design a new product, you get rid of your old one and replace it with a new one. But we're broadcasting this conference on Zoom. There is no new Zoom. You don't get rid of your old Zoom and replace it with new Zoom. You don't get rid of old Microsoft Office 365 and replace it with new Microsoft Office. You don't get rid of old Google Docs and replace it with new. Rather, software products improve themselves not by making an old version obsolete, but by adding additional features and capabilities. Now, that's what we end up doing an awful lot, is adding features and capabilities to products. Those are the things that we end up eventually referring to as our requirements. Those are the things that your product owner will stack up and put into a product backlog and try and prioritize. If you work for an organization, we worry about how much time it's going to take these products, features, or capabilities and turn them into working software. We worry about the cost. Cost in software isn't measured in metal or plastic. It's measured in people, your time, team time. And we know all this stuff is called scope. And if you're familiar with software development, you're aware of this time, cost, and scope triangle. If you use a process like Scrum, you're very aware of it. Scrum fixes this time in a sprint, maybe 2 weeks. They fix the cost by fixing the size of the team, and at the beginning of every sprint, the team fixes the scope by saying what they can complete inside the sprint. That's the way Scrum works. It focuses on time, cost, and scope. Now, you know this triangle is the bad news triangle. There's no good news here. You know that conventional wisdom says you can only have 2 of these things, meaning if you fix time and cost, the bad news is you get less scope. You fix time and scope, the bad news is the cost will go up. And if you insist on fixing all 3, time, cost, and scope, the bad news is there's actually 4 points in the triangle, and the 4th point is quality. You fix time, cost, and scope, and quality squeezes out. Now, we spend a lot of time focusing on these things, but that's not where value comes from. This isn't value. Value is not up to you. Value is up to your customers and users. And I'll explain the difference. What is important is what they do and how they feel and what they say. When we release a new product or feature capability, what we hope is that they see it and they choose to try it. We hope that they actually use it for its intended use. We hope that they keep using it. And we hope that they say good things about it. And these are the kinds of good things we hope that they say. This is what matters. If we release a new product or feature or capability and people see it and don't want to try it, or they try it and can't figure out how to use it, or they use it one time and never use it again, that's a failure. It doesn't matter if it was finished on time or under budget. It doesn't even matter if the quality of the code is good, or if, like Jim pointed out yesterday, that there are many successful companies that are a mess from an engineering perspective because that's not what matters. It doesn't matter if the product is well engineered. This is what matters. This is where value comes from. Now, there are kinds of products we can force people to use. Does anyone here use Jira in their company? A few. Jira has dominant market share for things there. Now, I can ask you, if you decided you hate Jira, you may have already decided you hate Jira. But if you decide you hate Jira, can you go into work on Monday and say, I'm done. I will never use Jira again? Can anybody say, I'll never use Jira? This makes you a user, but not a chooser or a customer. This is a characteristic of business-to-business software, or software we build for our own employees. So we can force people to try it and use it and keep using it, but we cannot force them to say good things. But the doing that matters when we build software for our own use or for business-to-business software are things like, well, we measure with things like efficiency and effectiveness, where efficiency means we get more work done faster, and effectiveness means we make fewer mistakes. We have fewer problems with it. We do better work. That's the doing that matters. If we release software for internal use, and people must use it, but they do work slowly, more slowly, that's not valuable. If they make more mistakes, that's not valuable. Now, what's interesting is if you release a piece of software and one person sees it, tries it, uses it, and really loves it, that's just interesting. We need lots of people to see it and use it and make a difference. If lots of people see it and use it, and somewhere along the line they have to pay for it. Maybe they pay for it by buying licenses. Maybe they pay for it, like in Facebook, by viewing ads or other things. If lots of people see that, that's when inside our organization we start to see revenue. So let me put your organization out here on the edge. Your organization has a very different responsibility than your customers and users. It needs to sustain itself. And it does not sustain itself with happy people. It sustains itself with money. And we need lots of people to use a product and buy it and help earn revenue. When we build something for internal use, we need lots of our employees to use it to save costs. And all of that results in ROI. We need lots of people to say good things about our product because that helps our brand or our reputation. And that makes us attractive in the market. And it makes it easier for us to sell our products. And when we can sell more of our products, this helps our position in the market or our market share. We sell more than our competitors do and we dominate the market. These are the things that matter to your organization. This is where value comes from for your organization. Now, one of the things I want you to notice is that value for customers and value for your organization are very different things. Your customers don't care if you make money. Your customers aren't worried about your reputation. Your customers are worried about their own problems and their own needs. So when we talk about value, there's two very different types of value. And these values are often at odds with each other. Making companies sometimes figure out how to make money by hurting customers, having them sign up for services they don't want or need, or charging them more money than they want to pay. That's business value, just not user value. Now let's work backwards here. Most processes, even processes like Scrum, start with a backlog of ideas, but if you're a product thinker, it starts upstream. It starts by paying attention to customers and users. It starts by paying attention to their problems and their, let's call it, needs. Not every product solves a problem. I'm staying close by in Akihabara, and there are lots of stores that are all about games, and if you build games, games don't solve problems. Social media doesn't solve problems. Streaming video services like Netflix or YouTube don't solve problems. Arguably, they create problems. But we are all wired with the need to be entertained, to have fun, to socialize with other people, to feel popular, to feel happy. And look, let's go all the way back to your company. Remember, your organization needs to make money. And hopefully your organization has some sort of mission, something that it is trying to do to help or change the world. Hopefully it has some vision for where it wants to be many years from now, some strategy for how it's going to get there. And the people responsible for that vision, mission, and strategy, we often call them the business or business stakeholders. It's their job to make sure that your organization is making money or sustaining itself. It's their job to understand their mission, vision, and strategy. And it isn't just enough for a company to make money. Most organizations obligate themselves to grow. If your company publishes quarter-over-quarter financial projections, it usually does not show your company is staying the same size every quarter or shrinking every quarter. It shows it's growing. And if your organization is not growing, its strategy is not working, it's not moving towards its vision, this results in a business problem. Now, a business problem is not a user problem. Your users are not laying awake at night worrying about your growth targets. That's not their problem, it's yours. So again, if software should solve a problem, we've got to understand whose problem it solves. Our business will worry about their problems, but here's the annoying thing is businesses cannot directly solve their problems. If your business wants to save money, It's going to need to find employees inside the organization that are working inefficiently or have problems to solve. If your organization wants to make more money, it's going to need to find customers or users that have needs that your company doesn't fulfill, and then come up with ideas to fulfill them. This is the way a product model works. Now, I draw this model over and over, but these days I color code it because every organization worries about the things in blue. They worry about whether they're making money, they worry about how long it takes to build things, and they worry about, well, if they've made money on the things that they built. But what makes any of this possible are the parts in green. They can't just come up with ideas without understanding the problems they solve and for who. And to measure the value, we need to pay attention to those customers and users and what they do with the product. Because if they're not successful, we're not successful. That's the way this works. Now, it's everything between here and here. That's what we call output. That's what we build. That's what we target for every sprint. That's what we evaluate at the end of every sprint review. But what matters most is what happens when things come out. The term for that is outcome. And outcome is not measured in what we built or the quality of what we built or whether stakeholders love it. Outcome is measured based on what people do with it when things come out. And it can't be measured at the end of the sprint because it often takes days, weeks, or months for people to see, try, use, and keep using that product. It isn't even part of Scrum most of the time. But if Scrum is about value, we need to start paying attention to it. Now, some people use the word outcome for everything out here, but for me there's a very big difference between what your customers and users do and the benefit your company gets. I'm using the term impact for this. It is outcome that drives business impact. In my taxonomy, I don't think there's any such thing as a business outcome. It starts with a user outcome that leads to a business impact. This language system of output, outcome, and impact, I did not invent it. It's very old, has been used this way for a very long time. I'm just reinforcing it here. I'm going to refer to these things as business problems, or we could also refer to them as business needs, and we refer to these customers' problems or needs as opportunities. If we are a product organization, we understand our business and its needs, and we know that our business can't directly solve its problems, so we look for customer opportunities or needs. We use those to come up with ideas. We build those ideas. And yes, if you don't build anything, if there's no output, there won't be any outcome, but we know that we focus on value. And value is measured based upon whether people use what we built, and later, months or even years, quarters or years later, we measure the business impact, the return on investment. It takes a very long time to measure that stuff. Our leading indicators of success are outcomes. Now, if we're focusing on value, we know that it all comes from here. I want to see if there's any other points I want to make before we move on here. Let me see if I can summarize what's going on here. I want you all to sharpen your language here. That business problems or business needs, those are the things that we focus on. Opportunities are our customers and users' problems. Customers may be people inside our building or people outside of our building. Output, those are the features and capabilities we build. Outcome, that's what happens when things come out. We measure outcome based upon how much our product is used. And impact, that's the benefit that comes as a consequence of people using our product. Now, if you were worried about project management, let me grab something. The scope of project management, that's right here. You can be successful if you deliver what you were asked to deliver on time and under budget. But the scope of product thinking, that is end to end. This is where products live. And products are focused on value. So you need to all ask yourselves, do I provide value to my company by building software? Or is the software I build valuable to my company? If you think your only job is to build software, then you're in a very different business. But if you are focused on the value your software creates, then you have to focus on this whole model. All right, let's summarize this and let's move on. Look, building more faster is not the goal. I don't know how fast the features and capabilities of that Fire phone were delivered, but it did not matter. Your business succeeds by finding and solving customer and user problems, and successful outcomes, what your customers endure, that's what drives business impact. In a digital product model, and this is why they're so great, is it shifts the focus to the same thing. Business people know their business success matters, but they know that the leading indicator to their business being successful is outcomes. And software teams now move their focus to outcomes, and now for once we are all focused on the same thing. We all understand where value comes from. It's those product outcomes, again, because that's what drives business impact. Now, you may work for a company where your success is measured based upon whether you're meeting delivery targets, whether you're delivering what you said you would on time, or whether the roadmap is being delivered or fulfilled. It's a very old quote. It's difficult to get a person to understand something when their salary depends on their not understanding it. Now that you understand where value comes from, you may find you're in an organization that really doesn't care much about value. They just care about delivering things on time. And sometimes speaking out can be a career-limiting move. So look, let me draw one quick picture here. If you work in an organization that doesn't focus on value, I want you to think of this continuum here. On the left side of the continuum, I am going to write the word waiter. And on the right side of the continuum, I am going to write the word doctor. Now, both of these kinds of people help other people. They do service work. And you know how it works to be a waiter. We were at a restaurant last night and we ordered lots of food, and we think the waiter is good when they give us what we want and give it to us quickly, and they suggest things and help us make choices. And when we order more food and when we leave the restaurant happy, that's a good waiter, and we're happy. But try that with your doctor. Go to your doctor and tell your doctor, look, these are the prescriptions I'd like you to write, and this is the surgery I'd like you to perform. Your doctor will say, that's nice, tell me where it hurts. Doctors are obligated to focus on this model. Doctors must understand your problems or needs, and doctors measure success based upon medical outcomes. The doctor with the best outcomes is not the one that wrote the most prescriptions the fastest. In the United States, doctors make more money when they see more patients and perform more services. So they make a lot more money, but they still know that they are evaluated based upon outcomes. They do this because they swear a Hippocratic oath to do no harm. And in the United States, they will get sued for medical malpractice if they don't focus on this. Now, there is no software development Hippocratic oath, and there is no software development malpractice. So you have to lean on your own values. And for me, it's important to focus on value. So when you are working with stakeholders, with customers, with users, try to think more like a doctor. Try to back up and really understand the problem you're solving, and don't just prescribe features or fill the prescriptions your customers are asking for. Actually measure whether they're working. Now, let's go on here.